I'm like, stories are for stories. Wow, people, today I have the privilege of speaking with Mike Smith. He can tell his story a lot better than I can, but what drew me in was his quote, which is God rescued me so I can help others who struggle with mental illness and addiction and love. And as men, I know so many of us, because I started my journey in my 40s, we struggle and suffer in silence or wearing that mask. So I think based on all I've learned about this man, he will have some insights to help us discover not only us men folk, but people in general to this to take that journey if you're not on that journey yet, to that personal place where you can have some measure of joy in this chaotic world. All right, Mike Smith, whatever else you want to say about yourself, man, just dig in. We're live. This is my take.
Okay, Alfred. Well, I want to start by thanking you for allowing me to come on your show and talk to your audience because, as you said, there's a lot to unravel here in my story. But I'll start kind of at the most defining moment in my life when I was younger that has carried me into kind of some dark holes throughout the entire adult lifehood, and that is that we were living in a town in central Minnesota called Sauk Center until I was 12. And at that point, my dad, who was a manager for the J.C. Penney clothing store chain, got fired from his job. So he had 5 kids to support and his wife. And I'm the fourth out of the 5th. So I'm second youngest. And when he moved us from Sauk Center up to a little town called Barnesville to start his own clothing store in the late 70s. And it just so happened that at the same time, this great big shopping mall was opening up a half hour up the road. So it was really bad timing. It'd be like a mom and pop trying to compete with Amazon, and so due to all that stress, Alfred, he died of a massive heart attack when I was 15. Just 3 years later into that move. And I only had one friend in high school. So I was really a loner. And that was the first suicide attempt. I'm a 2-time suicide survivor. And right after he died, a few months after that, I loaded up a car full of my drunken buddies and hit an interstate going 100 miles an hour with blind spots in both directions So I share that with people all the time to say, not only was I so down, I didn't care if I lost my life, but I even took others along for the ride. So,
Wow.
So now forward after that time frame, my mom made it clear that we were losing the house and we were losing the clothing store to the bank. So I tried my hand at college after high school for 1 year and flunked out of that. So then had student loans to pay. So I just decided the military was the only option. So I joined the Air Force like my dad was in. And it was okay. I spent my whole time in Texas. I really joined to see the world, but never got out of the state of Texas. And
Wow.
I was kicked out of the Air Force just around 2.5 years after being in. This was back in the 1980s when Nancy Reagan had her big war on drugs, and I got busted for smoking marijuana in the military, which is really ironic because if you forward to today, it's all legalized. Almost every state has it legal, but back then they didn't tolerate it. So me and 11 other guys got kicked out. And I came back to Fargo-Moorhead, ran into a buddy that I had met that 1 year in college by the name of Don Matthews. And he was a 50th-degree black belt in Taekwondo. And Donnie and I decided it'd be a good idea if we partnered up with our resources and rented a house over in Moorhead to grow high-grade marijuana. That was our big business. That was our big business plan, Alfred.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I had, and as it says in my bio with the bipolar stuff, and I write about this on my sample chapters in the on the website, theguttergospel.com. You can read what happened back July 31st of 1988. As I mentioned, my dad had passed away in 1980 when I was just 15. So I saw him appear to me in broad daylight. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't doing anything. I was just sitting there with the TV on my day off. And this still quiet little voice said, "Get up and stand in the middle of the room and fall back and I'll catch you." Right. So when I did that, as soon as my butt hit the floor, all this demonic voices started to come in, and I was seeing him and I was hearing his voice, how loud and clear his voice always was to me. And it told me to go grab his pheasant hunting shotgun, which was the only thing I got out of the estate when he died, and blow my own effing head off. And I was just fighting it tooth and nail, and I couldn't resist it. I was not, and this leads up to when I became a Christian. So after this episode was going on, I just got to the point where I was just about ready to pull the trigger, and all I can explain it, and like I said, this is in the sample chapter, but it was like there was this great wind that just kind of pushed me out the front door of the house in my underwear in broad daylight. So I was running like crazy up the street so I could get away from that house, because I just thought it was something in that house that was bad news. So came to about 3-4 blocks up the street, and a couple cars were driving by real slow, looking at me, covered head to toe in sweat and in my underwear in broad daylight. And I was like, well, I got to go back to the house because I don't want to be caught here, like in this condition. And when I got back to the house, the stuff was still continuing on. I was still hearing the voices. And this buddy of mine who used to come over to smoke marijuana all the time, his name was Heath. And Heath shows up, and I'm sitting in my chair in the middle of the living room. And he says to me, "Mike, you look like you saw a ghost. What's going on?" And I'm like, I didn't share it with him because I thought if I told him, he'd think I was just whacked out and nuts. So I said, "Nothing, man. I just feel like I need to get to church." And Heath responded right away and said, "Listen, man, if you're just going to preach to me, I'm going to leave and I'll never come back." And that was the last I saw of Heath. So
Wow.
That was my so-called friend, right? He just gave up on me, like a lot of people have in my life. But now I can forward you, in the interest of time, from when that happened in 1988 up until 1999. I had worked myself up in the ranks at the city transit system from being started as a dispatcher, going back to college. Then I also filled in as a driver. I got my CDL, and then got boosted up into the management position, running the whole show after being there like 2 years. So I had that responsibility on my shoulders, and I just had my one and only child. My son was about 4 years old at the time of this second manic episode, which I'm going to share with you guys now. It's also in the sample chapters. It's the second one. And anyway, so I bought Tony Robbins' Personal Power series to improve my life. I saw an infomercial one night when I couldn't sleep, and I was just thinking, okay, well, I got to try something because, I'd like to be a better manager, a better husband, a better dad, a better everything, right? Like we were talking about right before we came on the air. And it was like, I'm listening to these tapes time and time again.
Hold 1 second, Mike. Hold 1 second. I hate to do this. I usually don't do this, but I had to step away for a second. Thank you, everybody, for my patience with me for 30 seconds. Come back.
Yeah. So I got the tapes on. Like I said, I was listening to them time and time again, constantly because there was a 30-day money back guarantee. You'll appreciate this because it kind of shows you how my mind works, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, with the money back guarantee, it cost me $300. I'll just force it all into my head within like a week or 10 days and ship it all back and get my money back. So that's what I was doing, right? And this is right before Thanksgiving of 1999 when Y2K was going on and all this. It was exactly 3 days before Thanksgiving in 1999. And what happened was I was cycling severely. I was listening to Tony Robbins talk, and I was listening to this voice in my head that seemed like it was God because it was just total peace and tranquility. And anyway, the voice said to me, what do you really want out of life, Mike, as I'm driving back to the office downtown? And I said, well, I guess I want more money. No, that's not it. I want this, that. And it was like, no, no, no. So finally, I just crossed over on Main Avenue, the interstate, and this voice just said to me, Mike, what do you really want out of life when it's all boiled down? So I sat and thought for a second. It was a beautiful sunny day. And I just said, I guess I just want acceptance when it all boils down. I just want acceptance in life.
But isn't that what everybody wants, though? I mean,
yeah, it is. Very true. Yes, sir. So the voice said to me, and this is the gospel truth here. The voice said to me, Mike, I do love you and accept you, and I died for you. Now go out and tell the world, right? So I started to get out of my car, stop in traffic on Main Avenue, saying the end of the world is here and God loves you and died for you. Now repent, right? So this
you became
cop,
one of the world preachers. You became, I ain't saying that in a bad way. You became one of the doomsday in the world type preacher people. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway,
Wow.
the cop pulls over and gets traffic flowing again, pulls me over to the side of the road, starts asking me who I know in town. And I said, I know your boss because he's married to my little sister. So his name is Keith. I said, I know him real well. And then my wife runs a very prominent nonprofit in town. So I said, I know her too. That's my wife. And anyway, to get me up onto the psych unit to get evaluated. And I'm just like hearing just demonic stuff. It went from hearing from God to hearing from the enemy. And I was just like, man alive, I got to get out of the hospital. Because once again, it was just like back in 88 when it seemed like it was something in the house. And now it seemed like it was something in the hospital. So they released me against doctor's orders, because I was threatening to sue them all. And that night I go home, Alfred, and boy, does it ever turn dark now. When I got home that night, I was pacing the floor, couldn't sleep again, and wound up the next morning screaming out in torment. And my wife said she could see my eyes roll back in my head and screaming out. And pretty soon an ambulance shows up and puts me in a straitjacket. And then they get me up to the mental hospital ward downtown and put me into a padded cell in a straitjacket where I toured hell for 3 straight days. And I saw it's all written down in the book, but it's better when you hear it from the firsthand account because it's like people that struggle with mental illness, as it said in my bio, now that I've survived it all, and I've survived even more, which I'll get into in a minute. But my one solace the whole time in my life was when I was in all these dark places was journaling. I would always write. And I should mention to you guys that I just got my autobiography published out in Brooklyn Publishing in January. So I got that one goal knocked out. Now I'll share later what my future projects are looking like for me. But so now we're going from 99 in the interest of time to take it up to 2019. And before I get to that point, I failed to mention that in 2004, after I was fired from the city transit system and cycled through all that mania on Thanksgiving in 99, I just the only job I could find, Alfred, was I was driving a cab at night, driving all the drunks around, and they'd
Mm,
tease me, make fun of me. And it was like, I got home one night and tried to hang myself because I was so depressed.
mm,
That was my second suicide attempt. And this little voice said to me as I was stringing myself up in the laundry room downstairs, you know, Mike, your life still has a purpose. And in my messaging these days, that's one of the things I share with everybody, is that their life still does have a purpose, regardless of all the obstacles that they may have had to go through. The reason I named my book What I Did is because I think that everybody has been in that low point in their life, in the gutter, maybe not to the extent that I have, but I've been in a lot of dark places, including jail. Now we're up to 2019. I went into jail for a while. I lived in 2 different military homeless shelters, so I became a homeless
mm,
veteran. I got civil commitments placed on me, both in North Dakota and Minnesota, which in
mm,
essence is a loss of your freedom for 6 months in either state. Had to
mm,
appear. Then they institutionalized me after everything else. This is all in 2019. So they put
mm,
me in the back of a padded cell in chains, and they would shuttle me back and forth from the state hospital out in Jamestown, which is 100 miles outside of Fargo, to give you guys a reference. And I had to
mhm,
ride that for 6 weeks back and forth. Each week, they'd put me in front of a different judge to beg for my freedoms in chains. And I was like rejected every time. And finally, the 6th week, they said, okay, we're going to release you from the state hospital, but you have to go live in another homeless shelter. So I wound up in my second military homeless shelter. There was veterans upstairs and there were criminals downstairs. And
mm,
we would eat all of our meals together. And so now that I've shared with you in a very brief, kind of highlighted overview of my life, I wanted to say that the gutter gospel turns on a dime when I was in my second homeless shelter in the military one in town here in Fargo. And that is that one day this lady came in and said, Mike, you got mail. And I was like, well, who would be sending me mail, right? Because I lost everybody.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
so I open up the mail, 2 different envelopes with 2 big checks in each one for back pay and 100% rating from the military to give me my VA benefits at the 100% rate.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
So, and what I do with that
Wait
money,
wait a minute, Nate. Wait a minute. Let's back up for a second. You got kicked out under the old so-called fake war on drugs and lost
yes,
everything to receive a check later
from the
in
government
your
later
lowest
in life.
points,
Yeah.
one of your lowest points in life,
Yes, sir. Yes,
help you
sir.
where you needed it the most.
Yes,
When the man,
exactly
when you
true.
as a person had nothing, the God of
Yes.
heaven blessed you with everything you needed in a space
Yes.
where no saw you. Am I hearing
Yes.
correctly?
No, you're
Wow.
nailing it. You're nailing it, Alfred. I was on a psych unit one time, and this guy says to me that was up there with me on the ward as another patient, said, Mike, there's just something about you, man. I think one day your story's gonna be like reading out of the Bible, reading the story of
Hmm.
Job, how Job lost everything, and
Hmm.
then God restored 100% fold back to Job, who was down and out, but never lost his
Hmm.
faith in God. And I was in that exact same shoes. So I thought that was kind of interesting that he would see that in me and make that comment. But uh, yeah, there was so many down times. And that's why now, Alfred, what I do is I have links up on my website that say the Veteran Crisis Suicide Line is up there. The nationwide prayer line is up there
Hmm.
associated with the Billy Graham outfit. They'll pray for you
Hmm.
if you're down. But you know what? I also share, Alfred, every time, and I always make sure I share this with every podcast I get on, and that's this. I open up my heart and my direct access to people on all these shows by saying, if you think that you're not comfortable talking to anybody on the prayer line or the suicide line or whatever, but you still need help and feel like after hearing my story that you can relate to some or all or parts of it, here's my direct email, and that's mike@theguttergospel.com. So I wanted to
It's in the
mention
text.
that.
I get
Yeah.
that. I get that in the text, and it'll be on the YouTube channel. It's places as well.
Yeah. And then what I do is I answer those emails through WhatsApp. So I can call all over the world, talk to them in person, depending on where they're at in life. With WhatsApp, it doesn't matter where they're at. I'll call them or I'll email them every time, because there's a chapter in my book that's not on the sample chapters. But if you scroll down on my PDF, and by the way, I give that away for free on the bottom of my homepage at theguttergospel.com. So once you pick up your free copy there, you can open up the PDF and you can see scrolling down to the chapter that says Sea of Tears, Parable of the Muddy Penny. And that was an actual true story. What happened to me one night when I was going through all this stuff in a dream, that Jesus appeared to me in my dream and was sharing what my purpose on life was. And this is before I got into getting my book published and before I got into podcasting. But that's my chapter. That's probably my favorite one in the Bible, in my book, excuse me. But it talks about how people don't have such low self-esteem, and they're struggling with so many issues these days in life, that I offer them hope by sharing what happened to me in that dream that night. It talks about how people view themselves. This is according to what I heard anyway, from God in the dream, was to say that people don't value themselves anymore. They kind of look at themselves in the mirror and don't think they have as much worth as a muddy penny. And that's why I came up with
that is just not only what you say you hear from God, also it's real life. I encounter so many people doing what I do in one of my other gigs, jobs.
Yes.
Of course. And sometimes, or even in traffic, I might be misjudging, but I think I'm on point. When it's early in the morning and your face has this conscience about it, I'm like, where are you at up here? I'm a stranger looking car to car, seeing that dejected look, like, wow, I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. That lost space. Anyway, getting back, that's just one of my side points. Yeah.
No, that's cool though. I mean, and it's, not only are they doing it time and time again, Alfred, but they're getting nowhere in life, and they're actually losing in life. They're getting farther behind, and I try and encourage people and say, God created everybody and he doesn't make junk. So we're all individuals with no one else being exactly alike, even twins. So we are all here for a unique purpose that only we can fill in life according to God's plans. That's why he created you before he knew you, before you were formed in your mother's womb, as it says in the Bible. So these days, what I do to kind of stay busy is not just the podcasting thing. On top of it, I'm involved in the jail chaplain ministry here in Fargo, and those guys are great guys. So we have small men's groups. I'm on deck to lead it again this Thursday night. So that gives me a great sense of grounding and keeps me on the straight and narrow. So it's like I just have this sense of urgency to get people that message through these podcasts, is to say, you matter to God, you matter to me if you don't matter to anybody else. So because I've gone through these struggles I've talked about, God really put an empathetic heart in me now. He humbled me so much that it's like I can cry with these people when I'm talking to them on the phone. I can laugh with them and encourage them. So I know that's why my days are still numbered, but I want to get as much of that message out as far as I can, as many people as I can. And it would just so happen that I this is the second podcast of the day. You're not going to believe this, Alfred, but I did one at 4:00 in the morning, my time, with
Well,
a gentleman.
I have. It's
With a
funny. Go ahead.
gentleman
I'm
out of
laughing. Go
India.
ahead.
Yeah, that guy
Yeah.
was out of India, so he was like, "Mike,
Your
can you
time was
do it?"
off.
Yeah, can you do it
Yeah.
at 4 a.m.? And I'm like, well, if
Yeah.
that's what God's calling me to do, I guess I got to do a 4 a.m.
What?
podcast.
Yeah, that's taking me back to when I first started. Because life is about more than living, and I'm not really sure what I was doing. And I started getting guests. There's an audio form back then, pre-recorded, and people like in Australia and the UK, and I'm like, what time is it there? And I'm like, I
Yeah.
gotta get going. To
Yeah.
be with you, I'm around so 5 a.m. Eastern time. But to be on a podcast at 7 a.m. when I'm normally doing me, now I've got to do a show at 7 o'clock. That means to do me, I've got to get up at 5 or 6 to get my breakfast, my routine going, and then be presentable on an audio show.
Yeah.
So it's challenging. And 2 in 1 day is where I find myself at today. After you, I have another person at 3 o'clock. Because once I went back to Matchmaker FM, to start finding guests and rebuilding the whole process all over again. Like my third time, so I'm gonna get it right. I'm gonna get it right this time. My managed things, I didn't manage too well. For the month of June and May, I double booked some days. And like, Lord, God.
Yeah.
But then the people have got double booked. People have got double booked though. So far, like you, have amazing stories. After you, I have a former U.S. diplomat who worked in immigration for us helping in the area, helping people to see that we all are humans, no matter what. And her resume is long. Her story is basically, you may not look like me, I may not look like you. At the end of the day, God loves us all, and we all human beings.
Yes,
and
sir.
though it was part of her profession to help others to see people who do not look like them as being different.
Right.
That's really interesting coming off this here, because that in itself is a current, I would say, how can I say it? I'm gonna say it nicely as possible, because that can be very hard. We have been over several years, I believe firmly, taught to demonize a new group of people. Where it used to be about people who looked at me as a new group, instead of seeing them as humans, human beings.
Right.
When it comes back to what we're talking about now, I wanted you to share your story, because I have been in those dark places. Not in the areas you have been, but I've been in those dark places. I had a friend who was schizophrenic in my previous life, married life, because I'm in a great space now. Who she showed up at our door back then and went in the shower and started prophesying and waterfalls and everything. And she was in that state of mind, broken mind, broken spirit. But when she got some help and got leveled out, she was back to being Joyce.
Yeah.
But she was in that dark place. So I've seen it from that side, and I've lived some aspects of it. And that's why I go back to you as a man, not discounting women or other genders, that we don't always want to speak as we are told to speak. And for those who believe in God in many aspects as we do, we've been given, I know I've been given the fluffy side of God. God is so good, and God is all that, and God is that. Even with the story of Job lost so much and he was tortured. But then I heard in the last few years the story of Job, how we focus so much on what he lost instead of looking at what he gained. He gained a stronger relationship with God through his pain. He gained blessings. Yeah, he lost his children, but it's because of the story that was laid upon his life. But at the end of it, he gained more identity of who he was. He was, in your case, you gained a whole 2 checks and a chance to start over from nothing. We can laugh about that now, but where you were at then,
Yeah.
No one knew you. No one saw you. You were on a trajectory to come out of that institution, to go in another institution, go in another institution.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw a brief piece of my own journey because a lot of my split those transition real short, but I need to start shouting more in these podcasts. There was a counter where I too was in a phase of treatment. I too had a person come to me and guide me out of it. That's all I would say about that. But yours was in case of checks. One is God speaks and moves in different ways. I don't like the word mysterious. I believe he moves in different. It's only mysterious if you choose to acknowledge that he's moving. You're like, oh, that's a mystery. No, it's not a mystery. If he sent you 2 checks,
Right.
he put you in the right hospital with the right people, that's not a mystery. The mystery would have been you not acknowledging the help you received. Coming out blowing the checks, coming out saying, I don't have a story to tell.
Right.
But you took your, what's that quote a lot used often in black churches? You took your mess and turned it into a message.
There we go.
Your
Yes,
message
sir.
and your
And
message.
another one
reaches other
Another
people.
one I like to share, Alfred, is the purpose from pain.
Go ahead. We got
You know?
about 15, 10 more minutes. We can go ahead.
No, that's cool. I wanted to share this before we end today, and that is 2 things. Number one is that I already kind of touched on this about everybody having their purpose, but here's the 2 things I wanted to share is that I am now just in the works of getting my own podcast show up and running, so I could use some advice from you with that if you want to email me afterwards. And then
I keep that real simple. I get that real simple. I can give it to you in like 3 bullet points after you touch the next thing. It's not complicated. But go ahead with the next thing.
Okay. And then the most exciting news that's relevant in my life these days, you guys can look this up if you want to peek at it, kind of see the direction I'm heading with my life, is that October 1st through the 4th, down in Orlando, Florida, right by Disney World, there's a thing called the ICVM Storytellers Conference. And what that's about, Alfred and guys, is that the reason they put that together annually, and I know the people that run it very well, I'm a member of it, and they have you go down and pitch your book or your life story to see if it could be turned into a movie if it has enough merit. And these are all the guys that, if you ever saw the TV series called The Chosen and other faith-based movies, all these guys, the ones that put Chosen together are Angel Studios, and they're having representatives there at the conference. So a lot of networking. I always wear my custom shirts. I don't know if you got a chance to check those out or not, but I can email them to you. And there's just brand awareness.
First one of the day of my wife's new design. That's my slogan. No matter what happens,
no matter what happens,
so my wife took it.
That's cool. Let me see if you can get this one here. Can you get this?
Yes, there. We can see it. It's there.
Yeah.
Wow, former.
22 veterans per day, it says up top with my Nike Legend logo. And I get those out of Custom Ink out in Virginia. They're pretty expensive, but I think they're well worth it. I'll just share this one thing with you too, is that I was wearing one of them the other day out at I got a bite to eat for breakfast over at this restaurant I like to go to. And there was a gentleman with 2 ladies sitting in the table in front of me. And he turned around, he looked at me wearing my shirt, and he started talking to me, just struck up a conversation and said, so you were a homeless veteran, and I just share some of my testimony I did with you today. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, Mike, I'd really love to have you come on and speak to the guys at the New Life Center. It's the biggest homeless shelter in Fargo, right? And he goes, your story would really resonate with those guys because they've all had that point where they're down and out right now, and you could be a big encourager to them. And I'm on the board as the president of the board for New Life. So that was acknowledgement that the shirts work. If you get out there and get the branding out there, then you'll be going place. Not
Right.
only that, but he bought me my breakfast. I thought that was kind of a good deal too.
That's funny. Yeah, there's so many different angles of what I do with this here. I've got to plug some more things in. But
Yeah.
as far as your question with podcasting goes,
Yeah. What do you use? What platform?
well, I currently use Podbean. It's an app.
Okay.
I would suggest it costs like for the app. You can get the app. I would suggest getting the app. It's
Yeah.
$9.99 a year subscription for a year. It's not a bad deal for a podcasting app. You can use your phone,
Yeah.
your headset, anything, and Google Documents, Microsoft Word, whatever. Write your little content up and go that route. And it's real simple. I was using Anchor, which was a long story short. Spotify purchased them. Now you can still the other one I will also strongly use is still Anchor, but it's called Spotify for Creators.
Okay.
And it's free. That's the beautiful part about it. Unlike Podbean, because I'm trying to get Life is About More Than Living back on Spotify where I can add shows to it. But it's there where you can listen to it. I can't record to it right now. But let me just I'm going to place. I love to get started. Okay, real simple. Spotify for Creators. If you don't want to spend the $9.99 a year, and then with that case, you need a voice recorder, create an audio file. It will tell you how to upload it. It's about 10 minutes to create everything to get you going. Spotify for Creators. You can Google it, set your account up, use your voice recording your phone, wherever you do audio creation at. Then you save that file, upload it, and it's free. Biggest word is free. Unlike Podbean, $9 a year, and then because it's free and it is Spotify, they will send it out all over the place to Apple, you name it. It'll get there on its own speed. Great resource. For what we're doing today, though, if you want to do video content for free as a podcast, YouTube. Now, and that's where I'm working now through YouTube finally, like a lot of podcasters do. With YouTube, create. Once you get 100 subscribers, the fastest way to do that is to create reels, 3-minute reels with your phone, whatever, or just find some extra content that's open sourced and reshare it. Once you get that 100 subscribers, then you can create the YouTube version of your podcast. Like now, we're streaming the YouTube version for the first time ever. The first person ever, I went directly to YouTube and Facebook at the same time. So this is nice. Move for me. But Spotify for Creators, save that $9.99 if you create it, go there, or pay the $9.99. Which $9.99 though is you get up to 3 hours of live streaming instantly, or your own through your phone or whatever. No video content. So either one, Podbean or Spotify for Creators. Strongly suggest Spotify for Creators. So you can pick your phone up, do something, boom, you're done. Podcast is up there. You can't bring guests on it that way though. That's the only other part about it. On Podbean, you can bring up to 7 guests. That's the difference.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
but
gotcha.
I keep it real simple because I look at these other podcasters and they give these schools and trainings, and that's great. You get to that level, but to start out, as the old saying goes, keep it simple, stupid. So keep it simple, and now you're already in the game, and you were already on a podcast this morning. You know, do the thing.
I didn't tell you this.
Podbean is also free too.
Yet. Alfred, I haven't shared this with you, but I'm doing a third one today at 5:00.
You're a stronger person than I am right now. At 5:00, I'll be out working, doing that thing with you. This ain't paying me yet. It's paying me in people and dividends and interest stories for other people, but you got to pay them. Mike,
right?
It's so enjoyable.
Yes, sir.
This has been such a great experience for me. I will sing, since you don't officially have any, I don't know how you do your website, but are you able to share links on your website?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Are
I
you able to
allow
share?
it.
Okay,
Yeah,
I will
just
send
copy
you
and
the
paste.
links. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll email you the links to this because I send everybody the YouTube. The, I send everybody the
I tell you
YouTube
what.
and
I tell you what the.
Podbean links.
I'll tell you what.
Okay, so
The best way to do that information is to send it to the same email that you did send the link to join today. That
yeah,
email,
the
because the Mike at the Gutter
gutter,
Gospel, like I was sharing earlier, was for the people calling in that need help
right?
off the
Okay,
interviews.
so send it to your personal email, the one you gave
Yes, sir.
Yahoo, I think it is. Okay,
Yes, sir.
I'll
It's
send you
in
the links
Yahoo.
there.
Yeah.
I'll send it. I'll send it to that link for you. Then you can do what you
Okay.
want
I
to with it.
appreciate that.
It takes. I do it for everybody because it takes a total of about 15 minutes for me to get this uploaded. And
Yeah.
because I finally using StreamYard as my studio platform, and every week my wife does a show with her bestie every Tuesday night. I held back from using this. I'm now using it. Let people see who we are and see
Yeah.
who we are, hear our stories. And the beautiful part also is I'm able to upload it audio form. But
Yeah.
through it all,
Alfred,
you can get at least 3 links, sir. Mike, I love having you on. Life is about more than living, people. I forget that sometimes my own slogan, my own show title is encouraging not only me, but you, the followers, the subscribers, the listeners. So it's like Mike. In my book, Split Souls and Transition, it begins with the story of a homeless veteran who killed himself. A poem based off of observation I saw. And if you want to read that poem, hear that poem, my dear listeners, look up Split Souls Transition. But that poem, it, God, I had to pause for a moment. Sorry, Mike.
that's
That
okay.
poem, that poem, which is named after a street in Greensboro, North Carolina, it's a chronicles what I observed one day. No, the person did not kill themselves, but at the end of it, after hearing the stories of other vets and seeing the numbers, I chose to go down that dark road as an awareness point. And you came
Yeah.
today on this show as a vet who gave the light on the other side. You don't go down that suicidal road.
Yes, sir.
So the poem took people to dark places. If you get the book, listen to the book, Split Souls of Transition, that particular poem, come back
Yeah.
and revisit this person's story. What's
I
your
didn't share
final
that.
word? What's your final word, Mike? I'm not even gonna close it out there. I'm gonna let you say what you want to say to breathe more life into those listeners who do not feel life right now. Then I'm gonna
Yeah.
get it. Stop talking.
Okay. Beautiful. I like once again. I want to say thank you to you, Alfred, and your audience. But I haven't shared this with you guys. I told you pretty much everything going on in my life, but now I'm also getting involved on 2 different fronts. One of them is helping former homeless veterans, or veterans in general for that matter, that have a rating or a disability rating of any percent, getting it boosted up to 100% because of all the difference in pay each month. It is astronomical. I know people that have a 10%, 20, 30, you name it. I know them because I've been in treatment with them all. And, I could never figure out when they'd say, oh, I'm 100% service connected, what exactly that meant. And, financially, it's such a blessing. I have a donate now tab on my website, but I really don't even mention that because it's like all my bills are paid. So probably just wind up taking that donate page off. It's like a GoFundMe page. And the only thing I was even having that up for was to help with the cost of podcasting. But now you just covered it and said you don't have to actually have a lot of money to be able to do your own show. So I appreciate the advice there. And the second thing I wanted to share is that I'm involved in helping a veteran down in New Mexico not only get his benefits, but he's running a nonprofit down there in the desert right outside of Santa Fe, about an hour's drive out of Santa Fe, where he helps veterans build self-sustaining houses. That's his nonprofit. And I think it's called Veterans Off the Grid or something like that, if you want to Google it. But Ryan is the guy's name. That's the veteran that started it, and great guy. You know, he's just very appreciative of any help people can give him. So I like to mention that about Ryan out there in New Mexico, and helping 3 different veterans here in Fargo get their 100% as well. I have a really good contact person at the VA that works with that. So that's what I'm up to, guys. You know, in a nutshell, it's been a wild ride. I wouldn't change a thing. I'll leave you with one final thought, which is this, and that is that I used to have a job back in the 90s before the 99 cycling in the padded cell. This is in the mid 90s now. And I was driving into Lakes Country over in Minnesota from Fargo on this route. And I was listening to this Christian psychiatrist talking to each other. There was 2 of them. The show was called the Minirth Meyer Clinic. And Paul Meyer said to Frank, the other doctor, he goes, you know, Frank, I've got 7 kids in my family, and every one of them is at the top of their profession as a doctor, or a lawyer, or a professor. But then I got my second youngest little guy out of the 7 that was born with bipolar disorder, like I was. And he said to Frank, he said, you know what, Frank, I bet you any day, sometime in the future, that little guy's going to outshine the rest of them by far. And the reason I'm sharing that with you is to say, I now have surpassed my sister. She's a doctor, and she, you know, has listened to the podcast, and I'm able to share my story with people all over the world. Like this morning at 4 a.m. in India, South Africa, Australia, you name it, I've been there. And I just started in January. So God's just blessed it by giving him the glory and saying, you know what, it's not because of anything I've done. I just happen to be the vessel that survived all that crap. But yeah, that would be my closing statement there, Alfred, is to say never give up, because you were born for a purpose and a reason that only you can fulfill in this world. So hang in there, call me, email me if you're feeling you just need help or someone to talk to. I'm more than happy to do it.
Thank you, sir. Peace and blessings to you, sir. Have a great evening and a successful week.
Yes, sir.
So we do this again. I'm pretty sure we will do it again. But definitely, thank you, sir. Goodbye.
Take care, Alfred. God bless.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.